Jimmie The G-Him back with you once again with another look at an NBA offseason and the team that I choose to look at today. What I would do as their decision maker this 2018 offseason is the San Antonio Spurs. Yes, the historic San Antonio franchise coached by Greg Popovich. After perusing the roster, looking at some of the players out there in free agency, looking at some of the destinations they're likely to choose, I find it of the utmost importance for the Spurs to trade Kawhi Leonard this offseason. Yes, trade Kawhi Leonard. I know he's had a problem with the team this late part of last season or just from the beginning of last season about recovering from injury. But I think it's very imperative for the Spurs to trade Kawhi Leonard because San Antonio is the destination that hasn't been a beast when it comes to getting free agents. And you must remember, the whole Spurs dynasty started sort of by accident when David Robinson was injured, and that allowed the Spurs to get the top pick of the draft and draft Tim Duncan. That wasn't them acquiring a big free agent, but that was sort of the start of the dynasty. And of course, you get lucky in the draft with your skill. You get great value in the draft with Ginobili and Tony Parker. So this Spurs dynasty wasn't built like your normal NBA dynasties when you just cherry pick some of the best players to continue your run. So with that in mind, I will trade Kawhi Leonard, and there are two trades that I would like to do. The first would be swinging for the fences, trading Kawhi Leonard and DeJounte Murray to Boston for Kyrie Irving. Alright, you said, I already said why San Antonio would do this. Why would Boston do this? Well, Boston has shown they can win without Kawhi Leonard here in the playoffs. Terry Rozier has done an admirable job at point guard, and I think he really fits with some of their talented wing players and some of their versatile guys like that. He's not ball dominant, but he can step up and be a scorer when it's called for. They are really a balanced team right now. And you also will get Murray, who's able to do some of the one-on-one things you might miss with Kyrie. Of course, he's no Kyrie. And of course, you get Leonard. Leonard fits well with those versatile 6'7", 6'8" type players. The Celtics seem to be stockpiling, and you don't have Gordon Hayward yet. But I think that gives them 1 through 5 what they're looking for and what they seem to like, and that's length, ball handling, ability, and just all-around skill. So that is why I'm hoping Boston would complete that trade. And of course, for the Spurs, Kyrie will give the Spurs that natural score at lead guard that the team has accustomed to having. Now, I know the Spurs pride themselves on ball movement, Greg Popovich playing as a team, but don't get it wrong, the straw that stirs the drink even in the Duncan years was having that guard that can get in the lane, break down the defense, making it easier for everybody on the offense to contribute. I think Kyrie Irving can step into that role really, really well. Now, if that trade doesn't go down, Boston said, hey, we do not want to do that. I got another trade that's probably more likely to happen, and that's trading Kawhi Leonard, DeJounte Murray, and Brandon Paul to the New York Knicks for Courtney Lee, Frank Ntilikina, Damian Dotson, and Trey Burke. Now, Ntilikina and Damian Dotson, they will be the two principals in this trade if I'm San Antonio. I'm taking a flyer on Burke for the way he improved towards the end of last season. But Ntilikina give you some of that size at point guard. Also, you can pair him with a shooting point guard, very heady. He doesn't have the aggressive nature right now to be that lead scorer I was talking about with Kyrie, but he fits very well in the team concept. And Damian Dotson, he's a guy going into the 2017 draft. I compared him to Donovan Mitchell throughout the draft process. I thought they were similar in a lot of ways. Dotson, more of that 2 to 3 swingman type of guy, and Donovan has he's shown in the NBA this rookie season that he's that shooting guard ability to play point guard type of guy. So he's a bigger, probably not as good as Donovan Mitchell, but I think he has some of the same capabilities as highlighted as he had a 30-point game towards the end of the regular season. So I think he just needs an opportunity, and I will give him that opportunity in San Antonio. You got Courtney Lee. He's a guy that just rounding out the trade as far as money-wise, similar to a Danny Green type, can fit into the system. And Trey Burke, I mentioned taking a flyer on him. He really improved and just came into his own towards the end of last year when he got a chance with New York after playing in the G League. So I'll see what he can do with San Antonio if he's able to stick around with us. So that's what I would do. And of course, I think New York would love to have Kawhi Leonard. They'll get a guy like Murray who can replace some of the things they might miss in Ntilikina. And so I think that would be a good deal for where both of those teams are at. But speaking of San Antonio, the other part of that trade, if I'm making that deal with New York, since I'm giving up the biggest piece in Kawhi Leonard, I would want New York's lottery pick. Now, they may or may not be willing to give that up, but if I'm doing this trade, I would want that lottery pick. And depending on where it lands in the lottery, I'm not assuming it to be the first or second or third pick. I'm not assuming that, but right around their draft slotted range, 7, 8, 9 in that range. If I get that pick, there will be 3 players I'm looking for. If I'm San Antonio, that's Mo Bamba out of Texas, Miles Bridges out of Michigan State, or Jaren Jackson also out of Michigan State. And the other 3, I think Miles Bridges would be the one I target the most. That may be surprising. I think he's just a very underrated player. Can play anything from 2 to 4. And I would like to have him as that stretch 4 type of guy in the NBA. 6'7", 230 pounds. I think that was his listed weight in college before we get here to official measurements in combine season in the NBA. Just a very solid player. Like I said, 52% on 2-pointers, 45% from the field, 36% from three-point line. And what I like, 85% from the free throw line. So he will cash in when he gets fouled. You just give him opportunities. Average 17 points per game and 7 rebounds per game for Michigan State. Bamba is a guy that's also intrigues me. I think he'll probably get taken before Bridges, but I would consider Bamba just a defensive menace. Very smart player on the defensive end. 3.7 blocks per game in 30 minutes, where only averaging 2.5 fouls per game. So that's very good right there. Shot 60% on 2s, 54% on the field from the field because he shot 27% from three-point line. So I probably won't have him taking as many threes, more of a traditional center role. I know he can put on some weight, but I think he can hold his own with the NBA the way it is today. 68% from the free throw line, that's not bad, but I think he can improve given his tendency to shoot from the outside. And of course, Jaren Jackson, the other guy I mentioned from Michigan State, I think he's more of a potential prospect now. I mentioned the stat about Bamba, his blocks and fouls. Well, in 9 less minutes per game, Jackson averaged 3 blocks per game, just a little less than Bamba, but he also averaged more fouls at 3.2. I think he's just sort of feeling his way out. He's also an excellent three-point shooter. Of the 3, he's probably the better three-point shooter. At least he shot the best percentage from the line last season, 39% and 79% from the free throw line. So that shows you he has a first stroke. Just tall, athletic, can do a lot of things, but I don't think he's quite ready for prime time. Sort of like Deontay Davis was when he was coming out of Michigan State a few seasons back. I think Jackson is a lot better prospect than Deontay Davis, but it might be a while before you can give him a bulk of minutes. Now the Spurs' natural pick in the first round, the one they own, is number 18, and with that, even with targeting the front court with these three players. If I'm able to do a trade or if I'm not able to do a trade, the player I'm targeting there is Jontay Porter. Now, I mentioned him when doing that offseason outlook for the Washington Wizards, how much I like his game, just his upside given his young age. And I think those things apply here for San Antonio. He's a good piece in the front court that the Spurs can build around. Now, the Spurs will also pick number 49, and I'm just looking for the best available player here. Is someone like Kenrich Williams, who I think is very underrated out of TCU. If he's still on the board, I might take a flyer on him. A guy similar to Bridges, not quite the star potential of Bridges, but basically can play anything from 2 through 4. Good rebounder, good shooter, just a smart player. Gives you value at the defensive end as well. So that's what I would do in the draft if I'm San Antonio. Now, let's assume this New York trade goes through. I would also trade Rudy Gay. The player's coming over from the Knicks, sort of younger, and I think a contender might want Gay's services. I'll see what they have on their roster and maybe take a draft pick and Dylan Gay out. Someone like wherever LeBron signs, because he always liked veterans. Maybe the 76ers, maybe Oklahoma City if Paul George leaves there. Gay only played 21 minutes per game last season for the Spurs, but he's very efficient, 47% from the field, 11.5 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. So I think he can help a team that has aspirations of winning a title, and that might get me something back in trade value. So also, let's look at potential free agents. If the New York deal goes through, I'm not thinking of signing any free agents. But let's say if the Kyrie Irving deal goes through, I'll look at Jeff Green, Mario Hezonja, one of those two for I guess depth in the front court. Another shooter, another versatile player. Green had that role in Cleveland this year. I mentioned LeBron's like veterans. Put up similar numbers to Rudy Gay, but he's probably come at a cheaper price. Although in this Kyrie Irving scenario, I have both Green and Gay. Also Mario Hezonja from Orlando. Just a guy that never really quite put together a whole season. He had flashes last year, but his shooting ability, playing in an offense like the Spurs, I know Orlando had problems the last few seasons just with continuity. Maybe we'll give him more opportunity. Like for some of those stretches last season when he would average 13, 14 points per game, shoot 35, 36% from the three-point line. Maybe that could become more consistent for him on a better team. So I would think about taking a flyer on him as well. That is if the Kyrie deal goes through. Now, if no trade happens, the player I would target in free agent is Tyreke Evans. I think he can take over that lead guard role. But I talked about getting a Kyrie for. Basically last season for the Memphis Grizzlies was his best season since his rookie year. I really think he was outside of Victor Oladipo, was the most improved player in the league, arguably. He was finally healthy after a couple of seasons of injury. So I think he would have what it takes to be that lead guard for San Antonio, that guy that can work with a LaMarcus Aldridge. Keep the team going in the right direction and keep the team a viable threat in the Western Conference. Averaged 19 points per game last season, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Just very efficient, 45% from the field. Career highs in three-point percentage at 39 and three-point percentage at 78. The worry was that an anomaly that he peaked coming to his own last season. The team didn't win, but I think he can bring some of those same qualities and stats to San Antonio. All right, as far as my free agents, I'm not keeping any. So Tony Parker, Kyle Anderson, the rest of those guys, I'll let them go without re-signing them. Parker may be on the verge of retirement. That brings us to Manu Ginobili. He's under contract, and it would be my advice if I was running things. Manu, we wouldn't mind if he retired, but if he wants to play out his contract, he'll just know that he probably won't get much playing time. He did a great job for the franchise, but this is a business, and San Antonio got to start thinking about his future. All right, what do we have? Those three scenarios. Basically, if the New York deal goes through, we'll have a Spurs starting lineup of DeMarcus Aldridge at 4. I think Damian Dotson can play 3 with Swingman. We'll have Paul Gasol at center. I'll have either Trey Burke or Derek White starting at one of the guard spots, with the guy who's not starting being an odd man out, and I'll get to that in a moment. And also Danny Green at a guard spot. The backups would be Miles Bridges, Courtney Lee, Joffrey Laverne in the front court, and Patty Mills and Frank Ntilikina in the backcourt, with the loser of that Burke-White competition playing behind those guys. Also, we'll have Jontay Porter on the roster. All right, if the Boston Kyrie Irving trade goes through, we have a starting front court of Aldridge, Rudy Gay, Gasol. Backcourt, Kyrie, Danny Green. Front court would be Jontay Porter backing up Aldridge. The swing guy, either Jeff Green or Mario Hezonja. The center, Joffrey Levine, he'll be the backup there. In the backcourt, Patty Mills and DeJounte Murray, with Derek White, Manu Ginobili, and Brandon Paul looking for playing time, filling out the roster. And if no trade happens, we'll have DeMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, Paul Gasol, Tyreke Evans, Danny Green as the starting five. Basically, the addition of Tyreke Evans, that would be the big addition there. And behind those, I have Jontay Porter. And in this scenario, I think I would prefer Hezonja over Jeff Green because of his age. Maybe we can strike gold with him being a key part of the future. Laverne backing up at center. And in the backcourt, backing up are Mills and Murray. And we also, of course, have White, Ginobili, and Paul. So probably add another front court piece, just one more to the front court there. But that's my look if I was running things for the San Antonio Spurs this offseason, and the moves I would make and thinking about making. Once again, this has been Jimmie The G-Him. If you like the content you've heard, just press like and subscribe and be the first to get more content just like this. We'll continue our look at the NBA offseason with what I would do with